Firefighters in the city of Cape Town have been working tirelessly since the fire broke out in Simonstown last week. They have been battling several flare-ups, and a wind warning has been issued for the western coast today. Let's now get an update on the situation from the city's Safety and Security MMC, Jean-Pierre Smith. JP, good morning and thank you so much for joining us. JP?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning and thank you so much. We spoke to you a couple of days back and we're talking about how the fire has been contained and there were no major damage, no injuries and so forth. But what is the latest as we hear that the winds might be causing a bit of problem going forward?
The primary South Peninsula fire in Simonstown and up the mountain chain in Table Mountain National Park has been subdued. I think for the last 2 days we've had no flare-ups there. There have been new fires on the mountain, but we've also had to deal with a variety of other fires. So keep in mind that under normal conditions, the city is responding to 100 plus fires a day, 2,500 fires in the first 20 days of the month. So normally that would mean that those fires would be put out and would become a statistic somewhere in the report, unless there's loss of life or property. But with the wind as strong as it has been for the last week, this has caused those fires to become far more challenging and problematic. And that includes the fires we dealt with yesterday. We had a fire on the R27 that threatened an animal welfare establishment, where the fire department had to intervene. A big fire that is still raging at Gansekral, right on the border of the city, other side of Melkbos, Strand, and then flare-ups that we contained in Glenken along the expressway, as well as a damaging fire in Seawinds where 80 structures were destroyed and about 400 people displaced, and then a fire in Woodstock last night where a waste drop-off site with a lot of plastic and cardboard caught fire, and that kept the fire department busy till quite late. And of course the fire at Youngsfield on the Defence Department's land. So these sites have kept the fire department and other agencies extremely busy. Yesterday we were at Code Red, which means all of our resources are committed, and we activate the mutual aid agreements with the neighbouring municipalities, who we often assist, and over this last week they've had to step in to assist us, and those mutual aid agreements were activated yesterday again at 11 o'clock last night. That Code Red was stepped down, allowing our staff who had been called in from off-duty to step in, allowing them to return and some of the vehicles to return to their stations, and the fire stations from around us to return to their municipalities.
Is there a fear of more flare-ups, particularly in the hotspots that you've just mentioned, JP, and considering the strong wind that you are experiencing in Cape Town?
That's always a risk, and what we've unfortunately seen is that despite all the attention on the fire and despite all the communications around it and all the appeals for people to be sensible, we still have seen a lot of irresponsible behavior. In Imizama Yetu, a new fire was started yesterday at the top edge of the area, whether intentionally or unintentionally, whether it's a cooking fire that got away from someone, or whether it was intentional in order to clear bush for attempted land invasion purposes. As is often the case, this will need to be determined, but the net consequence of it is that a very dangerous circumstance arose where the wind would have driven that fire straight into Imizama Yetu and Out Bay, and would have, under that wind strength, lost a very large number of structures. So we've had several places in the last days where we've narrowly avoided loss of property and possibly loss of life. The situation still stands that none of these fires have claimed any lives, but certainly the Seawinds fire claimed quite a bit of property. And when fires start in informal settlements in strong wind, there's extremely little the fire department can do to rescue those structures, as an informal structure will be destroyed by fire in a minute and a half to 2-3 minutes. There's very little they can do. And under that strong wind strength, the structures on top of each other with limited access for the fire staff and vehicles to gain access, and where previous access paths that have been built have been eroded by further illegal building, that is a recipe for disaster.
You spoke last time around about the capability, or at least how equipped are the first responders with so many fires expected, and some that you've been dealing with as it is, as you just explained. How is the firefighters, the first responders, how are they coping? Are they well equipped? Is there enough to deal with this fires currently, and ones that are expected in the few days to come, as you have explained?
It's generally acknowledged that Cape Town has probably got the best equipped fire station in the country at this stage of fire service, and that we have invested hundreds of millions in new vehicles, equipment, additional staff to keep that fire department as functional as possible in order to be able to protect our residents and our visitors. And were it not for those investments, these fires would have destroyed properties and would have overwhelmed us in many areas. The ability of the fire department, with specifically the aerial firefighting, of which we launched our helicopters only a couple of weeks ago, were it not for those investments, we would have been completely overwhelmed. Yesterday, the fire chief had his hands full shuffling those aerial firefighting resources back and forth across the city to try and protect all the areas. So I think that we've come through it reasonably well. The situation would have been significantly worse. Do we need more firefighters? Absolutely, yes. But here I'm afraid we will need to start talking about the funding models for local government and how those work in terms of national government. If the city of Cape Town is straining at the seams, imagine what the less equipped fire departments elsewhere in South Africa are dealing with. And so we will need to really look at how local government is funded in its ability to render services, not just in terms of safety and security, but with regards every aspect of service delivery. And
just finally, JP, then, what advice or message would you give to your residents, especially as we head into the new year? It's a festive period. There's a lot of excitement in and around the areas. What message would you give in terms of just being safe?
So don't leave a fire unattended. If you make a fire, make sure that fire is fully under your control. Don't make a fire and leave it. Once you've done with it, make sure that fire is completely out, that you have doused it with water. Only make fires where it is legal to do so. Keep in mind the city bylaws and bylaws across the country make it illegal to start a fire in any public place. Do not make fires near any natural vegetation areas. It is not only illegal and criminal, it is also profoundly foolish and stupid, and you are playing games with the lives of other people and their properties. Their radial informal settlement, as a result of that massive Simonstown fire, came dangerously close to being in the path of the fire that could have had horrible outcomes, but for the very determined efforts of many people. So it is imperative that everybody just be responsible. And if you see anybody doing something irresponsible, making a fire where it doesn't belong, immediately call our emergency call center number. 87% of those calls are answered in the first 10 seconds. So we will respond to you on 0214807700.
JP, thank you so much for coming through to talk to us. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome, sir.
Safety and Security MMC in Cape Town, Jean-Pierre Smith.